Here's a news flash for you. Mel doesn't need my help.
I absolutely adore Doc. He's brilliant, he's clever, he cracks me up every time we speak. He's charming, and I swear to God, if you are gonna scorn like a Scotsman.
Have you seen any of her videos? Or is this just a thing that you're trying to do this divide and conquer, that Mel needs my help because I have testicles for some reason?
Hey guys!
Way! I always feel really crap in comparison to that introduction. So, yeah, I might be those things. I'm also a vicious, dirty scumbag. So, take it all with a pinch of salt. I am.
I've seen him be this vicious, dirty scumbag, and it's all over the internet too, guys.
Right.
He has his own minions.
From one vicious, dirty scumbag to another, Mel, why don't you introduce our lovely, shy, vicious, dirty scumbag?
Nate, too, is a vicious, dirty scumbag. So, but I have to maintain that I actually am a professional victim. I'm just waiting on my next check. I'm just saying.
Oh my God.
I hadn't got the first one. So I have.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes. I'm.
Yeah. Carry on, Nate.
Go for it, Nate.
No, I said, yeah. I'm the evil, vicious Nate Brody, the one that for some reason all of a sudden has been spreading false information. What's the thing now? I'm spreading false information. I forget what it is. My name is Nate. So.
Do you strike fear in the hearts of what? It's like you're in Gotham or something. Are you the Batman of law? Is that it?
I think so. I don't know. I don't know. It's just it's funny because even sometimes I just read legal opinions, and then when you read them and people object to what they put in the legal in their own case, I was So, but again, it's all love. It's all fun, and it's engaging. You know what I mean? It's if you didn't have the negatives, then you couldn't enjoy the positives. So I take it all with a grain of salt. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I spend a little bit of time engaging with people, have a understanding of everything, and I find it really valuable in a twisted kind of way. It's like I feel like I'm exploring the future, and I'm like, guys, no, really. If you look at the things in the sky, right? Start there. But maybe it's a sad reflection of my tragically lonely, hermetic life. But who gives a shit? It's fun for me.
Oh, goodness.
Hey, man. This is the only place you can go and speak to flat earthers, and I didn't even know people believe the earth was flat until I came, to the community. I was like, oh wow, there's people, and they'll argue with you for it too, Like I have like bets out there for like $500 bets that the earth is not flat. I'm thinking, when am I going to collect? But I didn't know you can never collect. There's no evidence out there that's going to give you so I can collect my money. I'm like, the earth is round. Yeah. Yes, this is a bet I'm going to take. I haven't been paid yet, so.
I know it's a sad thing, but there is a richness there that I want to really reflect on. That you can have selective conversations with people that you would never meet in regular life, and I think there's a huge value to that. And one of the things that I relish is when I have a back and forward with someone that I agree about very little with, and they turn out to be a really awesome person. And it's like, yeah, I think you're a moron when it comes to this, but you seem like a really nice guy. And it's like, oh, cool, I've really enjoyed this, man. Thanks very much, We may never agree, but you're not a dick. And it's like, this is gold. I love it.
Oh,
it's funny when I used to teach law, right? I used to So we used to have like a moot court team. So I was helping the students who were doing moot court. And I used to always tell them, I used to say, there's a difference between saying your argument is stupid and you're stupid. And I'm like, we
Yeah.
always want to address our criticisms toward the argument, not to the individual. And I think online, what happens is people conflate the two. So if I say your
Yes.
argument is stupid, people think it's automatic. Oh, you're calling me stupid. No. I'm thinking the way you're making this argument, this argument itself is dumb, but that has nothing to do with your intelligence, because
See,
some arguments that I make is dumb. So
I mean,
Yeah,
that's fair.
exactly.
And yeah, and so like this past Saturday, I didn't do like a proper science show. I talked about, the fact that people do conflate an argument as a definer for the person, and that's not necessarily the case. And I brought up the fact I was actually pushing an ableist narrative, particularly with Stephen Hawking. This is my example, where Stephen Hawking, after he
Alright.
passed away, he was finally free from his chair. And then a friend of mine who is confined to a wheelchair was like, this wheelchair is an extension of myself. If I didn't have it, I wouldn't leave my house. It is very much a part of who I am. And that's kind of like upsetting to me, because, it's become such an important part of my everyday that, I can't imagine not being without it. And I'm like, I get what you're saying. And they're like, this is kind of like hurtful, this kind of rhetoric. I'm like, well, thank you for being like the kind person to pull me aside and say, hey, Mel, you screwed up here. This is why. And it's a bit ableist, And I'm like, fair enough.
I don't think that's screwing up. I think that's someone quite reasonably saying, your world cannot be the same as mine. Here's a little slice of it. And you went, oh shit, maybe I was halfway a dick on this.
Yes.
I've done exactly the same. Yeah.
Yes, that doesn't mean I holistically am ableist, but I'm never going to completely understand. Yeah, I'm never going to completely. Damn, let's burn me. I have red hair, and I'm the survivor of the women who weren't burned to death. So, hey,
oh wow,
go us, So it's.
So, I mean, here's an interesting paradox for you. I'm only disabled some of the time. In fact, quite infrequently. But when I am, I'm really disabled. So, can I be an ableist and not disabled, and then have to switch over? Is there some kind of sweet spot I can reach in between? I don't know. I'm going to think about that.
Well, hey, it's funny because.
Go ahead.
Well, it's funny because like even with me, like most people, always see me with these glasses and always wonder, well, why are you wearing glasses? But I'm actually half blind, and the lights bother me so much that I have to actually wear these glasses. And you can see how my eye is like, it's atrophying. So, and it's always, what's always interesting is that when you are disabled, you do have a disability. It's people. I think sometimes people who don't have that disability, they assume that life is better if you don't have the disability, but not understanding that's like you're saying with the person in the wheelchair, somebody who's lived their whole life, who now their existence is not defined by it, but has used this in a way that this is who they are now. It has not become the disability. It's just become an extension of who they are, like you were saying before. And that's something, and what you're saying now is just something that I've had to experience myself. Now I don't feel like I'm disabled. I just feel like I've just got a different perspective on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No,
Precisely.
I get that. See, I thought you just look really cool in glasses too. It just reinforces the whole Batman of law. I mean, I'm just saying.
That's right. I would use that if I wouldn't be sued by DC. I would use that. I would use that so easily. So
yeah.
Nate, we can do that for you.
We can just call you the lawman.
We can make it happen.
We could call you the lawman and give you a cow. We'll just create our own character. Let's hit up Hannibal and Monty. Monty is a comic artist. He actually has drawn things for me before. He could totally draw you as the lawman.
No, he's doing my artwork now for he's doing some artwork now for my channel. So yeah, no, I know Monty. He's cool. Yeah. So no, it's gonna be fantastic.
Well, you've got the credentials, Nate. Professor Nate, NYPD. Thank you for your service, by the way.
Well, I wasn't in the NYPD. I was in law enforcement, but I wasn't in the NYPD of
I apologize for the misrepresentation.
No.
But
No,
you've got the whole thing. Mild-mannered lawyer in your everyday life, but you transform when the rage takes you. I can see it happening, Nate. Yeah, by the power of his dark glasses.
He's brooding over the city, sitting there thinking all of the legalities associated with the latest legislation that's come out. Why don't you tell people where they can find you? We'll start there. Tell them who you are, what you do, all that.
All right, so my name is Nate. I used to be, now, as Doc was saying, I used to be in law enforcement. I was a cop for about 10, 11 years. So it was another law enforcement agency here in the city. So I have, like, I've done everything from arrest people to, armed robberies. I've not performed them, but I've arrested people for them. Oh. So I've done it all on that side. So then I was like, after I was 10 years in, I got vested in the pension. I was like, well, you know what? I want to do something, I kind of want to do something else in my life. And then I became an assistant district attorney. So I went to law school, became an assistant district attorney. And, so I was trying cases. And it's tough. I had something like, it was funny because I have a friend who works, I forgot where it's at. It's down south, like in I think Georgia. And that person, like, in their career, they had something like over like 5 or 6 years, they had something like 70 cases. And I was like, wow, that's great. They were like, how many cases have you had? And I was like, well, to be honest with you, in my first month at the DA's office, I had 102 cases that we had to run. And that was my first month. Yeah, it was crazy. So, because again, you're in New York, so you have, people are getting arrested here all the time for everything. So that's just how it rolled. So then after that, I got an opportunity, because when I was in law school, I was one of the top students in my law school. So I had developed a couple of techniques while in law school to help other students who were there to improve. And those techniques they really liked. So they said, well, hey, listen, we why don't you apply to teach at the law school, and we'll see if we can train you and that type of thing. So then I applied. I introduced the law school to some technology that I wanted to use in classes. And they said, well, hey, listen, we really enjoy this stuff. You have the credentials. Would you like to teach this class? And that's how I started my 2 years at the law school. I was, first I started, with the worst classes, but then, I moved up. And at the end I was, I had a class of about 60 students, and I was just teaching them, constitutional. I've taught constitutional law. I've taught a little contracts law. I've taught some criminal law. So, and then now I'm on my next journey. I said, it's interesting. I was like, do I want to continue to work for someone else, or do I want to work for myself? And it was such a scary proposition of, do I want to do that? My pension is more or less set. We're okay with funds. And it was kind of like, what's my passion? At this point in time, what's my passion? I can still go and teach, or I can do something else. So right now I'm kind of in that weird space where I want to see what happens with YouTube. But then I also, but then I have the fear of it failing. So now I'm like in that weird space where I want to do this, but then it's like, am I competent enough to do this? And that's where I'm at right now, Yeah.
I understand.
Thank you for all of your service. And I think I may have nailed your superhero power, or the core of it. You've got the power to take every offensive racial stereotype and crush it, and demonstrate that you have, based on your life experience. And I think that's really awesome.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Hey, listen, like I tell everybody, I'm the son of 2 crackheads. My mom was a crackhead. My father's a crackhead. My oldest, when I was younger, most people don't know this, but we lived in abandoned houses. I was the kid that when we went to school, like sometimes I went to school with one shoe, and a bag over one of my feet, because we just didn't have. And I remember when we had got taken away one time, and that was like a whole part of the reason, because they couldn't take care of us. So, coming from that type of background, and and building and striving to make it through, it's interesting because you see, like, I've been on the side where you see the worst in people. You see the worst in cops. You see the worst in, and then I've been on the other side where, where all cops aren't bad. Why? Because I was one of those people. And just that journey from where it's the most important point that I've learned in life is that it's never about where you end up. It's about how you got there, and that journey is what matters, and how you treat people, and how you interact with people. And no matter where I'm going, as long as during that journey I can touch people's lives in a positive way, then it's already been a success, no matter if I get there or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree with you entirely. And we're all highly educated people. We've had the opportunities that have allowed that. But I need to be clear, I don't judge people based on that. I judge people by how they present themselves in the world, with honor and dignity and honesty, or otherwise. And it doesn't matter about the training or the professional experience. The core values go well beyond, much deeper than that, I think, at least.
Yeah, like no, you're 100% right. Like, it was funny because like, I used to hang out with G-Man a lot, and you guys know G Craze, man. And I've taken that guy out to movies, and we've gone to restaurants, and I've introduced him to the people who I know and things of that nature. And a lot of times I would get a lot of flack, like, why would you associate with this guy G-Man? But a lot of people don't realize that me and him, we had a bond because we had such the same past. Like, G-Man's past is almost identical as my past, and and I think the difference between me and him is that I've met people in my life who wouldn't let me continue to go down the wrong path. It's funny because most of my family on my side are extremely racist. Hate all the white people because they're looking to kill you. But then on the flip side, it was that one school teacher who said, "Hey, you're too smart to go clean toilets. Why don't you try this program? Let me make this phone call for you." And then at that point, when I started understanding people as individuals, irrespective of how they look, who they are, or what they do, my life, I felt, has been so much more fulfilling because of that, because of just that one principle. When it's sometimes I'm even embarrassed to tell people I'm a lawyer because I don't want it to color our relationship. Like, I just rather just hey, let's just go hang out and talk. And if you're an asshole, then I may not continue on with you. But if you're cool, then it doesn't matter what you do. It just matters how we hang out.
Yeah. Can I? A point that comes up in this conversation is the distinction between yourself and G-Man, and I have sympathy for the guy, if not empathy for him. It sounds as if you were in a position where you could accept assistance by, a leapist. But with him, I see that as a fundamental disconnect, that every time he's offered meaningful assistance, there's almost a reflex self-sabotage, or maybe I'm completely misreading it.
I think you're right.
I can relate to that too, but go for it. I can relate.
I think you're 100% right. I think at this point in time, he's so entrenched inside because and I feel embarrassed in saying this. I feel like now I'm talking to my psychiatrist here. Let me tell you the truth about how I feel. But but listen to this though. I was before I came, or before I kind of joined the online thing, I was a young Earth creationist. I didn't believe evolution was true. Like all the things that the Christian side usually says, I believed it. My argument was, my go-to argument against evolution was, why are there still monkeys? Like, that was my argument. I was like, this is just such a cheater. Until I actually went and learned and was like, oh, okay. I took a biology class and was like, that is such the stupidest argument I've ever made. And I'm embarrassed to say, but that was my thing.
How long ago was that, Nate? Just to give me some kind of context.
Let me see. I opened up my YouTube channel. I started this channel let me look at it. I think I started this channel in 2014. So we're talking about actually maybe 2013 and before. So 2012, 2011. That's when I was probably in Earth creation.
Hey, Nate. You know when that was for me?
When?
Like 2010, right around that. So it's fine.
Wow.
You're all right.
Wow.
It's around 2010. Yeah.
For me, about 1977. But the environment was different. I was the kid who got thrown out of the church class for going, that's all a bunch of bullshit, right?
Oh my god!
Get
You
out
know,
of here.
I
See, go fuck yourself.
oh man.
Yeah. So, well, but the thing is, different cultures are brought up to believe different things, and
Totally.
it's pretty interesting since we're talking about evolution. It's kind of what we're discussing here. Having been a person who's taught evolution in the Bible Belt of all places, having to overcome the cultural biases associated with that, where the devil planted the fossils. That's why evolution is wrong. It's a conspiracy by scientists to, they plant, it's like they use chicken bones, that sort of thing. It's just, but that was me. I actually, I don't know if I'm going to do it this stream or not. I don't know if I'll have time. I thought about calling Kent Hovind again because I've
That'd be
called
great.
him before.
I remember. I know. That's how I got introduced to you. They're like, you got to listen to this. I was like, listen to what? It was you calling Kid Over, and I was like, who is this?
I thought about maybe calling
the greatest call.
Oh my goodness, that
was
so much fun.
Matter of fact, we should do it live now. Pick up the phone. He's probably on the phone right now. He's probably teaching church right now, something like the Sunday school or something.
Be. Well, I mean, it's like 4:30. I thought about doing that, and I know. And see, here's the thing: I know where I'm at. I think only one person needs to know that the phone call is recorded, but not the other. And I think it's the same. He's in Florida. I think it's the same for him.
Oh no, Florida is a two-party state. I think
two-party state.
I think.
Well, that's fine.
But
I'm in the Netherlands, and
oh, you got
I'm in the Netherlands, and I don't give a shit. Yeah, extradite me, motherfucker.
Yeah, it'll be hard for them to get you. But me and Mel might have a problem. Mel might have a problem.
Send after.
But see, it depends on which state. I think Florida. I think Florida is not a two-party state. I don't think that's it.
You are neglecting a very important. You're neglecting a very important point. Kent Hovind is not a U.S. citizen, and the laws don't apply because he's a citizen of the Republic of Florida. So fuck him. He's outside of legal protection. And ask him why carbon dating a freshly killed seal is something only a moron would do.
Oh my god!
All right, you guys want me to call him right now?
Yeah,
go. Yeah. So are you sure? Is it Florida? All right, go ahead, do it.
Yeah, his. Let me
Please
see.
pass on this message from me. He is very ugly and stupid.
Let me. I have to. Okay.
But you got to get past the the secretary though, because the secretary is good now. She's a little better.
Are we certain? Are we certain she's better?
Dial 970.
Let me see if I can pull up the phone number really quickly on the last one that I called. I want to make certain I get this right.
Oh, this is going to be epic.
Dial 970 charlatan.
And and honestly, it would be a good tribute to SciStrike. Okay, I got it. Huh?
But first, is he in Florida or is he? Because I thought he was in another state. Was he? Are we sure he's in Florida?
Okay, so Repton, Alabama. That's where his big dino thing is.
Did you say Repton, Alabama? Seriously?
Repton, Alabama. 36475. Yeah. It's 1855 Big Dino. This is actively available on his website. So if you guys want to call him, don't do it right now. I'm going to see if I can call him really quickly. I called him last time. Well, he won't hear you because you're through my headphones. So I'm just going to do it through my phone. They might recognize my number because I've done it before. But he said I could call.
Star 6 7 to block the number.
Okay.
Star 6 7 before you dial the number will block your number.
Mel, tell him he can shampoo my balls.
You know, I might do that. And let me see if I can get that here. So I'm calling him.
As dialed, please check the number and dial again. Dial
611. Okay. They may not let me. They've had my number before, so I don't care. I don't care. I don't care.
1-800-charlatan.
Just tell me you want to make a big donation.
Science Evangelism and Dinosaur Adventureland in Lenox, Alabama. This is Kent Hovind. You have 5 options here. If you'd like to order our materials, or come visit Dinosaur Adventureland, or come to reach the camp ministry, call extension 1. If you'd like to talk to our secretary about scheduling a meeting or any secretarial duties, call extension 2. If you'd like to talk to me personally, dial extension 3. However, at the tone, please say your name, then press pound.
Melody.
Dun, dun. Mozart's 40th Symphony. Yeah. Just FYI.
Crescendo.
You know,
come on, Hovind. You must be taking a shit.
You know, if I was Ken Hovind, I'm telling you, I'd have put Tupac on there. All eyes on me.
You would think. I'm just going to set the phone right there. So while we're waiting on Kent Hovind.
You know you're watching, Ken. Pick up the phone, you bitch.
While we're waiting on Kent Hovind, why don't you start to talk about if...
Hello, this is Kent Hovind. I'm sorry I wasn't able to answer your phone. If you'd like to talk to me, please call back. You can leave a message here. I'm writing it because I can't.
He probably said that if you waited this long, then you want to leave a message. If you waited this long to hear this, you want to leave a message.
We will try to call him back in just a little bit. He answered his secretary answered. She was very nice, and I had a really nice talk with him. And they said call back anytime. So we'll try again a bit later. Maybe he's
all the people who work there, and all the people who work for him aren't employees but missionaries. So that's why he doesn't. That's he can avoid taxes.
Ask him why my best buddy is an abomination and should be stoned to death.
Oh my goodness!
That's always a good icebreaker.
I just got a text from Kent Hovind.
Oh shit!
Can you call back later? Like for real?
Call back after the rapture.
This is gonna be good. Oh my god!
Hey Ken, really come on the show and tell us all about the Loch Ness monster. You moron.
Today at 3:33 p.m. Can you call back later? He so I apparently got put on their phone list, and back in December 17th when I called, before December 17th when I called, they texted me at 10:16 a.m. about hello from Kent Hovind at the crew at Dinosaur Adventureland. We finally have a White House petition started to pardon Kent Hovind of false charges he was convicted under.
Wait. Yeah, wait a second. If you're pardoned after serving the sentence and all of that, I mean, really? Nate, wasn't it like 56 counts of various things that aren't good? Any of them?
Yeah, no, he had a lot of.
Can you call back later? What time?
No, but you're 100% right. He's I think with Kent, he wants the pardon so he can say, because if you're pardoned, you can say that you weren't, that even if you were convicted, it wipes it from your record. It totally wipes it from your record. So you don't. So when somebody asks you, were you convicted of a crime, you can say no because the pardon removes it. So that's why he wants the pardon. The pardon more or less effectively, even though you've done all that, you effectively won't be considered to be a felon.
Yeah. Okay.
Man.
But he thinks it kind of expunges the actual felonies, which I find bizarre. It's like you got busted, and if you're unbusted, it doesn't change the fact that you did a bunch of shit, really obviously, and you really fucked up your defense, you moron.
But don't forget too that like felons aren't allowed to vote. They're not allowed to have weapons. You can't get a gun. So he's there's a lot of consequences for his multiple year felony counts that he's convicted on and went to jail for. So
I mean, there was a point at which you put your hands up and go, yeah, I made some mistakes and I'm moving on with my life, and help me with that. And reasonable people will do that all the time because, bad decisions aren't, we all make them, some worse than others. But Kent, no, I didn't do anything wrong because reasons. And he had a pseudo lawyer at one point who was a famed sovereign citizen who had bullshitted his way into jail a number of times. It's like, this isn't good legal representation because we're under maritime law, apparently.
I don't know. Well, the sovereign the number one thing for sovereign citizens is that the U.S. Constitution is unlawful and illegal. But I'm going to shock most people who are watching this thing is they do have an argument because our first founding documents were called the Articles of Confederation, and what happens is for that legal document to be overturned or for it to be changed, you had to have unanimous consent from the states. But it was so bad that when they did the Constitutional Convention, they couldn't get unanimous consent. So you know what they did? They were like, well, you know what? F it. We're just going to do this new thing anyway, and never actually sent away the Articles of Confederation, just created a new constitution, and that's the one we've been living under. So their argument is that, yes, the Articles of Confederation are still good, and the Constitution is a legal document. So,
oh my God.
I mean, as a simplistic analogy, and I accept this, in my country, Scotland, you can still be effectively hanged for stealing a sheep. But that law is still on the books. It's just that capital punishment isn't on the books. So there's an internal conflict there. It's like, we're not going to bother taking that one away because the common practice is that can never happen. So would that be a even slightly similar thing?
Yeah. Well, it's effectively the same thing. Like for here, in the Constitution, we have the fugitive slave law. So if you're a slave in one state and escape, they can send you back. But because we passed the 13th Amendment, which outlawed slavery, it effectively is non-existent. And there's been efforts to try to repeal that too. Yeah. Oh yeah. Trust me. It's funny because I used to tell my class, make up the craziest story about the law, and then we can go into the casebook and I'll show you one even crazier. It's literally that insane.
That sounds like an absolutely ideal segue into all of the creationism's entries into courtrooms, which might be called a 60-year judicial faceplant.
Okay, so Nate, which video would you like to watch? I have 3 different videos. I have one on how evolution is not a religion and how a court discussed the fact that. I have one on Governor Ducey from Arizona. I think that's how you say his name. That evolution should be taught in schools, but a particular superintendent wanted to remove the actual word evolution from the state standards. And then I have another one about a student, I think in an English class, who's talking about how creationism should be taught in schools and what you need to do in order to teach it.
Well, damn. You know what, Mel? I'm saying close your eyes and press play on one of them because each one of them sound like it's going to be the bomb. So whichever one you choose, I'm in for.
All right, Bull, producer's choice, because you're the one who pushes the button. Which one are you keen on, Bull?
I'm feeling Deucey.
Deucey? That's not sounding like a weird name at all. That could be like made fun of by 12-year-olds.
He is responding for the first time to
Turn it up a bit,
that the
please.
theory of evolution will lose its place as part of the science curriculum in Arizona schools. The Department of Education
crank
is
up the volume?
revising its standards regarding how evolution is taught.
And start it again,
The
because I
governor
don't
said
think we
today
heard
that
it.
evolution should and will remain part of the curriculum in schools.
Throw down, flip it,
He
and
is
reverse
responding for the first time to concerns that the theory of evolution will lose its place as part of the science curriculum in Arizona schools. The Department of Education is considering revising its standards regarding how evolution is taught. The governor said today that evolution should and will remain part of the curriculum in schools. He added that the teachings of creationism could also have a place in school materials, but not in the science classroom.
Where I've seen it done well is where schools work on the story of creation in some type of literature that they're teaching, and evolution will be part of the science curriculum.
Arizona Superintendent of Schools Diane Douglas has gone on record saying that she wants intelligent design, also known as creationism, taught in science class along with evolution. She's currently pushing for new language to downplay or even eliminate some references to evolution in statewide standards.
Literally
Final
deleting the
draft will be
words.
presented to the Board of
Okay,
Education
removing
for
the
a vote
actual
later
words.
this year. The governor appoints the board members.
All right.
Interesting.
Yes.
Interesting.
Here's the thing with that. I looked at the draft, and the draft, I believe, was from 2018. And Bull, I think you have an image for that. It's arizonadraft.png in the same file. You can see that they actually wanted to strike in the draft, and it's you guys might Nate and Doc, you might not be able to see in the bottom left corner. Now they break down standards according to numbers. So HS.L4UT.31. All that means is high school life sciences, and it's talking about the standard number 4. It says originally it said obtain, evaluate, and communicate evidence that describes how inherited traits in a population can lead to evolution. They crossed that out and wrote biological diversity.
I know the creationist answer. Can I tell you?
Sure.
Magic did it. Magic did all of it. That was it. That's it. It's magic. Shut the fuck up. It's magic.
Now, in the bottom right corner, it's the indicators. So you have what's called standards, and then you have essential. They're basically calling them essential standards, and then plus standards, which are kind of like indicators to show that they've mastered or ways to help them master the concept. And so it says gather, evaluate, and communicate multiple lines of empirical evidence to explain. Originally, it said the mechanisms of biological evolution. They crossed that out and put in change in genetic composition of a population over successive generations.
Also correct.
Yeah,
but that's
so they're just making it more wordy, so you don't avoid the word evolution. That's all they're doing.
That's essentially it. So the current standards, I went and looked up the current standards. So go to Arizona Final Bull, the first one. They originally had crossed out evolution and put biodiversity, but they actually ended up keeping the word. So good news there under life science. So these are the individual core ideas for knowing science. And they adapted this from working with big ideas in science education. So, that sounds like a terribly impressive scientific peer-reviewed journal,
Conversely, though, Mel, Conversely, the religious studies core competencies include, and are limited to, making shit up, dogma, guilt, fear, and bullshit. Those are the answers. Oh, and God did it. That's it. That's it. That's all you need.
Well, the three subsets of knowing science in high school is physical science. Under physical science, earth and space science, and life science. So under life science, since we're talking about evolution, they kept the word. They said the unity and diversity of organisms living and extinct is the result of evolution. So that's a win. They kept that. Go to the next one, Bull, under the Arizona Science Standards. Now, this is what they ended up keeping. They went through and they don't mention the word evolution under those plus. This is put together differently than their original draft. And what they did is they completely erased the term evolution from the essential main, like it said, obtain, evaluate, and communicate evidence that describes how changes in frequency of inherited traits in a population can lead to biological diversity. So they kept that there. Then they went through.
I have an interest. Sorry, Mel. I have an interesting parallel from Kitzmiller versus Dover time in terms of the manuscript of Pandas and People, or the book of similar title. Originally, it had creationism in it a lot, and over the time, it dropped and replaced those copy and paste with intelligent design. At or around the time of Kitzmiller. So the point being that creationism and intelligent design are the same thing, dressed up slightly differently.
Right.
And it's also funny too, because from what the news report was saying, if they were to teach creation in a science classroom, they would actually be violating people's constitutional rights, because that's been litigated already in one of the two cases that we were talking about earlier. So, if they are trying to teach creationism in a public school science classroom in any form, then that violates the First Amendment. So,
yeah, precisely. And let's be clear, we're talking about strictly Christian creationism, not the many creation mythologies that surround our many tribes and throughout our diverse history. So it's a very specific type of fundamentalism.
And it's
Go for it.
No, what's also I always find fascinating is that what Doc was saying is that usually when the courts, since there's no real, I think a lot of times creationists don't understand that science isn't really just, this is science. It's a process. It's a process of trying to understand the natural world. And through a process, and when something goes through that rigorous process and it's successful, that's when we graduated to, this is something science. It's something we can teach other people, because it has this, this effect of being able to, make predictions, and it's the best explanation for the phenomenon. But what creationists think is that you can skip all that by just saying, well, here's the explanation, i.e. the Bible, and then put that into a science classroom. And that's the thing that the courts always struggle with, is the fact that, no, science is a process. And until creationism, if it goes through that process and is successful, then you can teach it in a science classroom. But until that time comes, then you can't teach it as science, but you can. And this is something that I was having an argument with someone else about earlier, is that creationism can be taught in public schools, but it has to be taught. It can be taught in a social studies classroom, or a comparative religions classroom, or even a social science classroom. But it cannot be taught in a science classroom, because it just hasn't gone through the scientific rigor for it to be available to be taught as science. And that's one of the huge issues that creation for some reason can't understand.
I mean, another analogy, which I'm very guilty of making, is that there's a reason that crystal therapy, chakra healing, and homeopathy aren't taught in legitimate medical schools. The reason being, these are not legitimate medicine. They may make you feel good in the same way as creationism may make you feel all warm and fuzzy. It's still made up bullshit, like all of the other mythologies.
You know, one of the for my class, one of the analogies I usually use is astronomy versus astronomy versus astrology.
Exactly.
Astrology was the science for almost 1,000 years, and then eventually, when we got astronomy, nobody's saying we should teach them both in a science classroom because astrology isn't astronomy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. So, my niece is an elementary school teacher of comparative religious studies. And her position is some people believe this. And they talk about Islam and Sikhism and Hinduism and Christianity because it's a polycultural environment. It's like, oh, our tribes are different, but most of these rules make kind of cultural sense if we don't take them too seriously.
And that's fair. That's
Go ahead, Mel. I'm sorry,
Mel.
Oh, no, it's okay. That's certainly fair. It's just, coming from a person who's had to teach science, I think it's important to note that certain states, the teachers are allowed to teach creationism along with evolution in the classrooms. I think one of the states is Tennessee. I think another is Louisiana. But oftentimes the state test, because biology is where you would usually find that in high school biology. The state tests don't cover creationism. And so oftentimes the teachers don't teach it anyway because time is limited, and their measure on how effective they are as a teacher is also based on a test, which sucks, by the way, having been subjected to that and still managed to excel. You can look up my numbers. I'm still all right.
I have a point on this. All about diverse opinions and such like. Rhetorical question. If a teacher is willing to teach creationism as a science subject, how likely are they to have more than a passing understanding of evolution? Rhetorical question. I'm thinking Mr. Garrison, retarded frog monkey fish. That's pretty much the standard I'm thinking,
I will be frank. A lot of the science teachers for some of the a large portion of the states, a lot of the science teachers have an education degree and they manage to pass the science test to teach biology. Now, for my state that I'm in, I have degrees in science, but that's not required to teach science. And so I encountered teachers in a particular district, and they asked me things like, what exactly is a somatic cell? How do you teach genetics? I don't quite get Hardy Weinberg. And I'm going, wow. And they had like 10 plus years teaching biology, and they still don't know what a somatic cell is or how to teach.
Did they ask you how to tell the difference between your arse and your elbow? Because that's pretty basic.
So it's just, but to be fair, the standards required for a person to teach, and certain states no longer pay for post-grad degrees. And they base that on the idea that anybody who gets a master's or an EDD, is what they call as the doctorate in education, they're not any more efficient or effective as a teacher than a person with a bachelor's degree. Here's the rub. Okay. When I taught, I had an undergrad in the subject that I was teaching. My course knowledge was vastly more intense than somebody who passed a test on for whatever reason. Being able to apply all of the different concepts and, practical applications, how you can use this in your life, et cetera, all the different fields that use this type of stuff. They don't have that. And it's not the teacher's fault per se, because of the fact the certification rules are really kind of low. But I was required to pursue a post-grad degree just to keep my job. So I had to get a master's. And in this state that I'm in, they passed legislation saying they don't have to pay you more for a master's. And I'm like, isn't that nice?
So in other words, they force
So
you to get it, but don't want to pay you for it.
they don't want to pay you for your added education. So I dare say my argument is somebody with a STEM degree, science, tech, engineering, math, whatever, that's forced to go to grad school to get a master's in teaching is probably going to be a higher content knowledge, statistically speaking, than somebody who passed a test and got a bachelor's in education. But they're not going to pay them more for that.
No. I think everyone accepts the difference in quality there. It's just the state is obviously saying, we don't give a shit. Sorry, we
Go
don't
pay
care.
$40,000 for this degree, and we're not going to pay you more for it. Now, fortunately, the districts that I worked in, they had an additional stipend to give you for being a hard to, fill position because nobody wanted to teach chemistry. So it's like it's a hard to fill position. So they gave me extra money. Here's a stipend, and on top of your salary, here you go.
It's I always find it so horrible that even in the United States and all over the world, one of the lowest paid professions is teaching. And it's funny because it's one of the most important professions on the planet, because you are taking the next generations and giving them the information so they can move forward, so they can be equipped. But those are usually the ones who, like, for instance, my wife is from Nigeria, and she was saying that there sometimes the teachers aren't paid for like not years. She said for like almost a year. Where, like, they just will take, the government takes all the money and steals all the money and won't pay the teachers. So the teachers are working for free. So now you're doing it for the love of teaching, and then eventually they'll get some stipends and things of that nature. But it's funny how we undervalue that aspect of our society. And even though, and I always make the point that we find it to be so instrumental in the development of our young people, because we offer it for free. We offer education to students for free. Public education is free in the United States. And matter of fact, in some places, if you don't send your kids to school, you could, as a parent, can go to jail. And something that we hold that important, why don't we take care of the people who are actually teaching this stuff? And that I just never understand why our society doesn't hold teachers to a higher esteem. But it just is what it is.
Yeah.
In my upbringing, the school teachers were really, other than physicians, the only people that had tertiary education. So we were always instructed to listen carefully and work hard. I guess that's the background. And you make a really good point. Let's look after our teachers, man.
That's great. As an aside, go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say as well, this might scare the US viewers, but in my country, if you can qualify to go to university, you're paid to go. Not paid much, but it's considered an investment. And I managed to get that as well as a scholarship for grad school. So this 7 years of university I had actually paid me as much as an entry level job in the industry. Again, it's considered an investment, and the taxation rate is actually lower than it is in the USA.
Yeah.
I hate you now, Doc, and I hate your stupid country.
I hate my the concept is, and we've been doing this since the 18th century Enlightenment, the concept is commonwealth, that the amount a culture pays back into itself is an investment, and it enriches the overall environment over, I guess, hundreds of years is the thing. So it's still that way in Scotland. It's not quite that way in England, but I wouldn't have gone to higher education if I would have ended up in debt as a function of it.
I owe more than my house. That's all I'm saying. I'm just I'm dropping that
because
there. But I have 4 degrees, and they can't repo my brain.
It's because of the stupid. It's because we live in this stupid, super capitalist society where we want to monetize everything. Healthcare, make them pay or die. Education, make them pay or stay stupid. It's like, you know, we live in this fantasy world where I think most people doesn't realize that we're cutting people off at the knees and we're telling them to run a race. It's like, no. We have this. There's a better way out there. That's why we don't have universal health care in the States. And that's why, like Mel is saying, I owe hundreds of thousands of dollars for these degrees. And guess what? Nobody's going to, nobody's helping me pay those back. I got to go and work like a slave to pay them back. And then hopefully I would have paid back 2 houses right now when I do it. And like your Mel is saying, it's just the way it is in the United States. I don't know why.
I just might, I could just move to another country and do the income-based repayment plan where my U.S. income is 0 and just not pay it for like the second, like years. I think it's 20 years.
Well,
and then whatever's left, right off.
Here, because my income is as significant as it is, it costs me a whole $80 a month for complete healthcare coverage.
Oh my God!
And that's like the maximum payment as an immigrant to the country. And if you don't have it, it doesn't matter. It's like you go to the hospital and they help you. It doesn't matter who you are, because that's like how we roll, But I don't know, maybe I'm simplistic, but having the most formidable armed services in the world, like the equivalent of the next 15 largest militaries, scale it back a few percent and actually do universal healthcare and education, because there are lots of smart people who aren't wealthy, and at the moment,
hold on, Doc. You know what the other side's going to say? If all that wouldn't matter if we couldn't, if somebody could come in and take us over. So we got to make sure we're ready to put foot in ass at any moment in time, and we'll spend as much money possible to do it.
It's cool, man. It's cool. I admire it.
Listen, Americans we're so afraid. We're so afraid of being taken over. That's why we got the Second Amendment, where we're afraid of tyrannical government. So we want assault weapons in our homes, and just in case, and then we want to pay extra taxes to get the military to get trillions of dollars so they can do nothing with it every year. That's just the way we roll as Americans. Big guns and afraid of being taken over.
I love it, and as a culture goes, I guess mine was in the similar position about 800 years ago, but we had swords and muskets and whatnot.
And naked under kilts.
But I admire the U.S. military, and I've got nothing bad to say about the service people or the veterans. But you guys are getting really, really good at blowing shit up. It's like, wow, you got it nailed. It's just
okay. Really quickly, after we talked about Arizona, I think it might be time for our new sponsor, Bull. We have a new, totally real, not fake commercial that I made today.
To vote for your bias.
Hold on. Start it over, man.
Hello,
vote for your bias.
I am the digital representation of ScientistMel. I want to take a moment to thank all of my patrons on patreon.com/ScientistMel, as well as all of you who are giving through super chats and my help with GoFundMe for my computer. Thank you so much, as well as PayPal.
Give Meryl all of your money.
Streamlabs donations. I really appreciate your help. So guess what, guys? We have a special word from our newest sponsor. So let's check it out. Yay!
Yay.
Hello, I am Dr. I Am Bias. Now, if you remember from my last commercial, I will actually write textbooks that associate with your particular perspectives, even if they are unsupported or have claims that are unsubstantiated. Guess what? I am running for office. I am running to be the superintendent of your local educated school district. Now, I want to hear from you. what particular topics and studies are going on in your school that you'd like to get rid of? One of those things is that evolution thing, and we know that's all wrong, so we're just going to remove that word from the textbooks first thing.
What about the gay
Our
lessons?
first order of business is to talk about the budget. We're going to go through and look at the current teacher salaries. We know our teachers work really, really hard, and we feel that they are being paid adequately. So, instead of supporting different types of groups and, education things after school programs, we're going to spend some money on other things. The first thing we're going to look at is going through all the textbooks and rewriting them. We suspect it'll cost about $100 a textbook. So if you can imagine, this is going to be a pretty hefty cost here. Probably around $100,000 or so as we go through and rewrite them. But we know your perspectives on what education should be teaching is most important. So, in summary, I am Dr. I Am Bias, and I am here to help educate your children on what you think they should learn, even if your claims are unsubstantiated and if you have no evidence to support your particular perspectives. It doesn't matter. They'll grow up just fine. So, vote for me. A vote for me is a vote for your bias.
Awesome. That woman reminds me of Sarah Palin, and that's never a good thing.
I don't know if you guys could read the little side things that said, like, teachers are happy with the salary, a survey done by lawmakers.
I heard that. Oh my god. Oh my god.
But yes, so I figured, Dr. I Am Bias from last week who rewrites textbooks, she's running for office now, guys. So a vote for her is a vote for bias. Give that a go.
Hey, anyone except Trump,
Evolution.
Oh my god. Well, he's got a lot to go on with it. Yes, but even though now with this, I wonder what the administration, because it seems like they are moving toward this anti-evolution piece too, even with the federal government, right? Since we got some, because Mike Pence is like really, really anti-evolution, right? Like, didn't he give like this speech one time that was real anti-evolution?
Yeah, he played the "It's only a theory" card, and the informed world went, what the fuck? Yeah.
Every time I hear that, it's only a theory.
Did you?
Why are there still monkeys?
I sent you a link in Dover, Pennsylvania, I think in 2004. The teachers there were required to have a statement before they taught evolution in the classroom saying that there were gaps in the theory. And later a judge ended up throwing that out. And I know you had mentioned you wanted to talk about a court case where they were saying that essentially evolution is not a religion. So how about we talk about that, and then we can watch the video on that and see what your thoughts are.
All right. So what happens is that there are two cases that usually when you talk about evolution in schools that generally people go to, and that's the Supreme Court case Edwards v. Aguilar, and there's one right before it called McLean v. Arkansas. And what happens is that in both these cases, essentially the same thing happened. You had a state law, and the state wanted to force either creation to be taught alongside evolution. So in other words, if you teach evolution, you must teach creationism, or you couldn't teach one without the other. So you couldn't teach evolution without teaching creationism. So it had more or less had the same effect. One was telling you had to teach both. The other one was saying, well, you don't have to teach anyone, but if you teach one, you have to teach the other. So both the courts had to essentially determine what is science versus what is religion. And the court made an evaluation, even in a Dover case, the court had to determine, well, is creationism, or is intelligent design in the Dover case, actually science? because that was the key. Now, in the Constitution, there's a provision. Science is mentioned once, and it's the government's job to promote science. But on the other side, it's the government's job to stay out of religion. So if you have something that's deemed science, the government's job is to promote it. But if something is deemed religion, then the government's job is to stay away from it. So here, the court had to kind of parse. Okay, well, it's evolution science, and there was no question. It's science. It's this. You had all the these PhDs and every credible institution of learning. That's what they taught. You go to Harvard, you go to Yale, you go to Princeton, you go to their biology department, you're learning evolution. It's not even a question. Creation isn't even mentioned in those classrooms. So it wasn't a fact of whether evolution was science, but whether creationism was science. Now, the courts made an interesting distinction. They said it's true that you can have a religious idea that's also scientific, right? You can have some religious idea that just happens to be scientific by consequence, but also be scientifically valid and responsible. And then when you have a case like that, then the court said the scientific understanding trumps the religious understanding. If it can be proven that it's a scientific fact, then no matter where it came from, the scientific value is so important that we'll allow you to teach that in science classrooms because it's science. But if there is no scientific value within this religious idea, then by teaching it in the science classrooms, you're promoting religion. And that would be the problem. So the Supreme Court made this evaluation in Edwards v. Aguilar about whether creation science was religion. And when they made this evaluation, a couple of key points that came out of that trial is that, number one, it was the rigidness of creation science. See, creation science isn't something that if you present new information, it's going to change, right? It's a conclusion that no matter what information you present, it's going to still be the same. But the court said a fundamental piece in science is the fact that it changes, that when new information is presented, the theory could be discarded or it can be improved, but that change in understanding is a core principle of something that is scientific, and also the fact that it has to go through the scientific method. So they put the onus on the creationists to say, okay, well, what can you predict? What can you show? What process has this been going through? And if there's new information to show, for instance, that God is not real, would you then abandon the theory? And the fact that they said no to all those questions, they won't abandon the theory. It's right. They're looking for evidence to justify it. That's why the court deems it not to be science. But the court did leave the old door open that, hey, if you can prove that creationism is scientific, then you can teach in the science classrooms. And that's why after Edwards v. Aguilar came down, all the creationist books took out creationism and started calling it intelligent design, because these PhDs try to put it in literature, because they're trying to make the argument that, hey, this is a scientific theory, even one that is minor, but if they can prove that it has some scientific validity, they can get into science classrooms. But unfortunately, they haven't met that bar yet.
And there's also a very nice graph showing the presence of creationism versus the inverse presence of intelligent design of pandas and people. As one dropped, the other increased. It was a literal copy and paste, and it was one of the most transparent attempts at deception that I've ever seen. These guys they're absolutely inept.
Remember C design proponents or something like that, where they were trying to change it, but somebody pasted the word in the middle of the other word, and it became like C instead of creation. It was C design proponents, where they're creationists and intelligent design all wrapped up. You're right. They're inept in the sense where they have a conclusion, and that was one of the key points the court actually found too, is that creationism starts off with a conclusion. This is the way it is. It's some supernatural, and all these foundational assumptions that creationism has cannot be taught, cannot be flushed out by science, because science doesn't deal with the supernatural. As soon as you impose a supernatural figure, then you're not science. So that's why, if you notice with intelligent design, they try to remove the supernatural aspect and say a designer. That designer could be an alien, but they just say it could be a designer. It could be this. It could be this. Trying to remove that supernatural aspect of it to make it constitutionally sufficient to be taught in public school classrooms.
There's another example of preachy with this. No, I love it. There's another example of ineptitude from the creationist science institutes. Here's a rule of thumb. If a scientific institute makes you sign a statement of faith, which indicates that you will reject all evidence that counteracts your presupposition, it's not a scientific institute. So, Institute for Creation Research, you can all shampoo my balls.
And you know what? It's so funny.
Go for it, Nate.
Oh no, I was just saying it always amazes me that when you talk about this topic and you try to distinguish the two between the creationists will always say, well, it is science. But then when you ask them specific questions about, well, what's the hypothesis? What tests have you shown? How can you prove this thing to be reasonable or true? How, with this inference that you're making, it's always there's nothing that they can actually show. And when you say, well, you haven't shown me anything scientific at all to even evaluate, they get upset and say, well, it still is science. So it seems like the problem that we have with creationism is that they have a fundamental misunderstanding of what science is and how science operates, and that's why they're calling it science. It's not the fact that they don't believe what they're saying; it's just that they don't know what science is. It's like me calling something, it's like me calling something. If I don't know what it is and I just label it, then I can say that about anything. So.
Yeah, I think you just nailed it, Nate. For me, it boils down to a fundamental incredulity reflex. I don't understand dick all, therefore you're wrong, and Jesus. And at the most basic level, it's that.
It's weird because, like you, Nate, I came from that heavy fundamentalist background. If you haven't looked up Nazarene, look that up because that's how I was raised.
Oh, wow.
They're just,
No,
they weren't,
Go ahead,
yeah.
Mel.
So it's
listen,
weird.
Listen,
it's
right
weird.
now,
Mhm,
my
go for
mom
it.
doesn't believe in no, but I agree with you. My mom, I argue with her all the time. Like I say, evolution is real. She's like, no, you can't believe you're teaching your children evolution. That's the devil's work. I'm like, the devil's work. Well, the devil is the devil's work, and the devil is a scientist because he's up there doing experiments and making medicine. The what's it called? The flu shot that you took is based off evolutionary biology. They look at it every year and see how it evolves and change and give you a flu shot. That's devil's work right there.
That's me doing the devil's work, curing cancer.
Oh my God.
So God gave this kid cancer from moment one, and I fixed it with the help of many, many other people. Is that the devil's work too? Because it's going against the work of God that doomed this child, right? So
I'll tell you.
Okay.
Listen, God has the greatest publicist on the planet, man. God's publicist is the greatest on the planet. Everything good is God's, everything bad is yours, and that's the way it is forever.
Nate,
Yeah.
do you follow Satan on Twitter? You totally should. S8N, S the number 8 and N. Follow Satan on Twitter.
S8N?
He's pretty funny. S the number 8 and N.
All right.
You people are Satanist devil worshippers. God,
you evolutionists.
He's pretty funny. It's kind of interesting the conversations I get with people, particularly ones who were never brought up in a religious home. Like Satan, he's really kind of all about choice and understands consent better than God in some ways. And it's just like they're like the court, it's like the case for Lucifer. And like how all the things, what did Lucifer actually do that was wrong, and then you go through and you figure in the fact that he actually he was all about choices. And then it's like, when you compare the other option, it's interesting the conversations I see on the internet and how particularly people who were never brought up in a religious home, kind of like have the case for Lucifer. Is like he actually encouraged critical thinking a lot in the Bible. So it's interesting. It's interesting to kind of think that, well, Satan was a scientist then, like the whole idea that you brought about here, Nate. So it's kind of funny.
Well,
I feel the same way about I feel the same about Smurf Village. I've loved Smurf and Gargamel, and it's fantastic. But I don't confuse it with reality.
Well, for some people,
These
they think
tribal
it's reality.
tribal creation myths. Come on, guys! It's the 21st century.
Doc,
And it's
I have a
theirs. Remember,
challenge
theirs
for
is
you.
right.
I have a challenge for you. Instead of swearing, say Smurf instead. I'm gonna Smurf you in the Smurf, and you can Smurf my Smurf.
No, I'm not doing that. Sorry, I'm really well behaved. 60 hours a week, 2 hours a week. Are you trying to oppress me? You're trying to oppress me. I won't be oppressed by you, white she-devil.
Oh my God.
Oh no!
It's funny.
I would never oppress you, Doc. I'm a good girl. I don't oppress people. So
I was having a
a
conversation with Oh, go ahead, Bull.
I was gonna say, could you turn Smurf into a transitive verb like smurfing?
you could.
Yeah. Have you ever watched the Smurfs?
Oh,
They
yeah.
always use it as a verb.
You're smurfing.
I'm gonna Smurf that
It's
Smurf
Smurfy
so
today.
hard in their Smurf, they won't know to Smurf them.
The Smurfs, man.
Smurf the Smurfing
Have anybody
Smurfers?
hear me? Beer,
Yeah, you're breaking up
smurfing
a
beer.
little
Hello. I've got the Smurfs album, actually, the original on vinyl, and beer, smurfing beer is one of the songs. You don't get drunk, and it isn't beer. So,
Oh, interesting.
beer.
Oh my goodness.
I've always been
Wait,
confused though. Was Papa Smurf their dad, or their leader, or both?
I think the leader and kind of both sometimes.
It was a hell of a life to live because you had all these men and just one woman. Smurfette was like
Oh
gold
God!
in that place, right?
Feel for Smurfette. Oh my God! All of the "Hey, how you doings" like every day. Oh,
All of those
Lord.
little blue dicks.
It must have
You'll
been
be like,
insane. It's like,
I am tired. No. Can I have a vacation from the village? Because I cannot cope with people here. Oh my
somebody just
God.
made her in a pot, right? Didn't Gargamel make her in like his kitchen or whatever? It's like they should have went to Gargamel and be like, "Yo, listen, we need about 100 more Smurfettes like this one. That's what we want, and we'll do whatever you think because one is not enough. You see how many Smurfs we got? Grumpy Smurf is already grumpy. He's already grumpy.
Oh yeah,
we need to hook him up.
Yeah, Grumpy Smurf is like Grumpy Smurf's like Smurf Hulk, and you don't want to make him angry. Then the shit.
That would have been my whole thing. Like, what the hell? We only one?
I probably would have just left the village and like, I'm gonna read some books about the local foliage in the area and just go away. And be like,
take off, man. A whole bunch of them moved in with the Keebler elves. Did you not hear about that? It was like a major deal.
I'd have went to the North Pole and said, "There's got to be a female somewhere. There's Keebler elves are all guys too."
Oh,
Give me let me. I'm around to.
Yeah, but the Keebler elves are all gay as fuck, right? Everyone knows that.
Somebody said in the side chat, they said I should try to call.
Oh yeah,
Hovind again.
Papa Hovind.
Let me see. Let's see if I can call him again really quickly.
Charlatan hotline.
Matter of fact, you got to use Smurf. Use Smurf as your
Evangelism and Dinosaur Adventureland in Lenox, Alabama. This is Kip Hovind. You have 5 options here. If you'd like to order our materials, or come visit Dinosaur Adventureland, or come to reach the camp ministry,
it 5? I don't remember.
Extension 1. If you'd like to talk to our secretary about scheduling a meeting or any
3.
secretarial duties, call.
If you'd like to tear me a new asshole, press 5.
Extension 3. However,
at the tone, please say your name, then press pound.
Melody.
Satan.
I know he's probably coming on. He's like, "I'm watching your live stream now, Melody."
We know you're watching, Ken.
It's the
You
same
Smurfing
song.
Smurf mom. You're going to get a copyright strike from Mozart. You know that, right?
Can I get a copyright strike?
hello, Ken Hovind here.
Hi, Dr. Hovind. How are you today?
I am overworked, underpaid, normal.
Oh gosh, I completely sympathize with you. I called you, I don't know if you remember me. I called you back in December because I was developing a unit for dinosaurs and I really wanted to
Yes,
get your
I remember that.
You do. Awesome. I'm so glad you answered my call because I'm now getting a unit together on evolution and I was really, really concerned and I'm having to teach certain standards. And I really kind of wanted to get your perspective on how I should go about this, because some they're kind of frowning on me teaching intellectual design and stuff, and I'm trying to make certain that I meet the needs and according to the standards without getting in trouble with my job and stuff. So I thought maybe what do you propose is the best route for me to teach evolution as far as if we go about like with the dog route, because I noticed you do a lot of videos about dogs and I thought maybe I could talk about that. And so it would be very helpful if you could just kind of give me some information about, what your perspective is on the evolution of dogs.
Well, you keep talking about standards you have to go by. Is this for a secular public school system or what?
It is. Yeah, it's for a secular public school system.
Yeah. Well, probably. What state are you in?
Oh, I'm in Tennessee.
Oh, well, probably Tennessee has a law that says textbooks have to be accurate. So you should point that law out.
Okay.
And say, scientists have observed wide variations within every kind of animal. And I would try to sneak in the word kind. For instance, there are now 339 recognized breeds of dogs.
Right.
Plus thousands of half-breeds or mongrels or mutts, in between the breeds. You don't have to all have Great Dane. So 339 recognized breeds of dogs. And you can say, as far as anyone's been able to show, there seems to be some kind of limit that dogs will always stay dogs.
Right.
And then you can say, some scientists have speculated or guessed, or according to their religion, I don't want to go that far, because of these wide variations in dogs, some scientists have speculated that the changes might go even further. However, this would be outside the realm of science.
How is that? Okay, I have a really quick question because I know I'm going to get some questions associated with that.
Sure.
How is that outside the realm of science? How do I need to explain that, do you think?
Well, science deals with what we can see, observe, study, test, and demonstrate. So science, for instance, could not talk about love or emotions or hatred. There's nothing physical you can see about that. There's certainly a spiritual world, but the science only deals with things we can observe, study, and test.
I totally get that.
Put a definition.
I wanted to ask you. I read something somewhere. I think it was on a news site or something about oxytocin. That, that was kind of associated with love and stuff like that. But, I could be wrong. What do you think about it?
Well, there are some hormonal things that can be studied, scientific, dopamine release in the brain. And there's a lot of things about love that can be studied, but there's a lot of things that just simply are outside the realm of science. Love is more than just chemical.
True. What do you think love is, Dr. Hovind?
Well, now we're off to a whole different subject.
Well, that's true. I don't want to make you blush. I'm sorry.
Well, patriotism would be another example, or jealousy, or anger, or how would these be part of the physiology? How could they evolve? It's an emotion. You'd have to. I just would point out this is outside the field of science. Science is limited to studying things that we can observe, study, and test.
I muted myself, but I can hear everything that you're saying.
For instance, what is the inside of the moon made out of? I don't know. Nobody does. We could study the samples they take on the surface and try to make some guesses. but the value of the science would drop off quickly. It's not really hard science. It's a guess. It's like the different levels of the Earth, the core, the mantle, all that kind of stuff. That may be true, but that's not the same kind of science as analyzing something in the laboratory.
I have a question for you. What do you think the core of the Earth is made of?
Well, because of S&P waves that they find from earthquakes, if you rang a bell, if you hit a bell on one side with a hammer, and you had instruments all the way around the bell to pick up the vibration, you could study quite a bit about the mechanics of the material the bell's made out of, just by how long it takes the vibration to pass through certain areas. And they know from earthquakes, especially with all the instruments they have scattered all over the world, that when there's an earthquake in Japan, it seems to go right through the earth, the sound S&P waves do, and we can pick them up on the other side. But there seems to be something in the middle creating a shadow that that can't go through. So the guess is that the center is a core made of probably liquid iron, because it's so dense and even the shock waves can't go through it. So there's a lot of science in studying earthquakes and trying to determine what's inside the earth. But at the end of the day, nobody's ever observed it. It's way more of a guesswork than it is hard science. So you simply point out to kids that in science, sometimes they get a little carried away they take a little bit of data and then run a long way and get the wrong conclusion. Did you see the movie, The Green Mile?
I did. I thought it was really, really good. What did you think about it?
I loved it, but there's this lesson there. The black guy, John Coffey, was found with the dead girls. He had blood on him, and he was arrested and convicted and executed falsely. He did not do it. Right. So they had some evidence. He's found with the dead girls, and he's got their blood on him, but he didn't do it. So sometimes science, we get the wrong conclusion. We look at the facts. We see 339 breeds of dogs and say, aha, this proves dogs and mosquitoes and pine trees are related, which is not at all the case.
I have a question for you, because I encountered this quite a bit, when you're talking about how court cases kind of go through and sometimes they get it wrong, but, and then the fact that means science got it wrong. Do you think that they undergo the same type of methods that they do with court cases as they do with, when they're trying to figure out cause and effect? Because I have some friends that are scientists and they talk to me sometimes and I listen. I'm like, okay, because I'm trying to, I really am trying to understand. And it seems like that, they have different processes. What do you think about that?
I think the vast majority that I know are sincere, dedicated, and they want to know the truth. However, they're prejudiced. Suppose you were a scientist in North Korea, and you knew you have to find answers that say communism is good and Kim Jong-il is a wonderful guy. You're not allowed to find anything outside of that. So you're already restricted by what you can publish. If you publish anything that says communism doesn't work and Kim Jong-il's a jerk, you're going to be executed.
Well, that's true. But
in American, in our school system, it's the same thing with science. If you publish anything against evolution, it just won't make it.
But do you think people would be executed for that, though?
Not executed, but they certainly would lose their job. Many. Look at the movie Expelled. You seen that one yet with Ben Stein?
I think I've seen little clips of that, and I know I've talked to some people who were part of that particular film, just out of my own curiosity, just to kind of see what their perspectives are, because I'm all about learning, teacher and all.
Yeah, people in America lose their job for speaking out against evolution. They don't get executed yet, but it's the same type of persecution as it is in North Korea or in Nazi Germany. If you spoke out against Hitler, you'd be in the gulag, So.
Wow. Well, I know you're really busy, and I don't want to
Yep.
I don't want to keep you too long. I really appreciate you spending some time talking with me. I'll
Sure.
consider.
Well, I hope it works out.
Oh, thank you. I'm curious. What is the difference between like kind and species? How do I go about explaining that to the kids?
Well, God made up his classification system way before Carolus Linnaeus made his. God said they bring forth after their kind. And I think most of the times that's pretty obvious to a 3-year-old that a dog and a wolf are the same kind of animal, and a dog and a pine tree are not. Most 3-year-olds got it figured out by then. So, but I would be careful about going down that trap. It's a trap. They say, well, exactly what is a kind? Well, I don't know in every case. Exactly what is a screwdriver? Well, go look in the shop. There's a lot of tools that are like you got to scratch your head and say, where does this go? Does this go with the screwdrivers or the pliers? Or, I covered that the other night in my Bible study. So most of the tools can be sorted very quickly and easily. This is a screwdriver. This is a hammer. This is a wrench. However, there are some specialty tools that it's just hard to classify. And it's the same with animals. 99.9% of them can be quickly classified. The 3-year-old can tell you that's a bird, or that's a fish, or that's a dog.
That's fair.
The one I did the other day on whales, was Jonah swallowed by a whale or a shark?
I thought it was
I just did a couple of days ago.
I thought it was a whale. I was pretty certain it was like maybe but the blue whales, I know they're a bit different. They have like different mouths and stuff, so that might have been harder.
Well, watch the YouTube I did a couple of nights ago. That's the title of it.
I will check that out.
And that goes in, and that kind of answers the question about kind. What is a kind? But see, it's not our job to prove what a kind is because we're not making everybody pay for that in the public schools. I would say it's generally closer to the classification of family.
Wow. Yeah.
But there might
fair.
be sometimes where our classification system might match God's at the species level in some cases, or the order level, or I don't know. That's why I'm very careful not to fall into that trap. I say, well, I don't know exactly what a kind is in all cases, but I can tell you this: a mosquito and a pine tree are not the same kind. But you guys think they are. You evolutionists think they have a common ancestor. And I look up a chart that writes from the book with the lines connecting them.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to follow, isn't it?
That's stupid.
Yeah, it's really hard to follow.
They have all life forms going back to a common ancestor.
Yeah. That single cellular organism. Nobody was there.
Yep.
Nobody was there.
That's dumb. Well, I wish you the best. Call me anytime. I'll help any way I can, okay?
Thank you so much, Dr. Hovind. You have a great Sunday, and I really appreciate you.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Oh my God!
Hey, we really appreciate you charlatan, proto-cult leading lying scumbag felon motherfucker. Keep exploiting the idiots, Ken.
I feel a bit dirty because I'm not a teacher anymore, but oh my gosh. I don't really feel dirty because he does actually exploit people. So I kind of feel like I feel marginally dirty for that.
But he's
Kent has Kent has a script that he never deviates from, and it hasn't changed for 20 years. And he never said one thing in that conversation that I've not heard 15 times before. He is so two-dimensional, it's actually painful.
Well, see, I kind of feel bad. I kind of don't feel bad because it's literally the same stuff he always says. So I'm like, whatever. But he said I could call him anytime.
You should change the name of the stream to Kent Hovind reads his doctor's dissertation live on air. Because that's basically it.
Yeah. And you know what the sad part about it is? He knows how his arguments fail. He knows that he's full of shit. And he's trying to convince you to use his same bullshit. Oh, just say the word kind because it's so ambiguous. They really won't know. And when you say kind, we mean fish. It's like he understands and he knows, but don't forget his livelihood. If your paycheck and your mortgage depends on you not understanding something, then you're not going to understand it. And that's where Ken Hovind's at right now.
I think he's reached the stage now where he doesn't distinguish between the bullshit and reality. It's become ingrained over a couple of decades at least. So I don't think there's any real distinction going on anymore.
Cool. Do we have a super chat that I missed? Let me know if I missed a super chat, if you have access to the YouTube, because I'm still restream. The new beta is leaving out super chat. If you gave me a super chat, I'm sorry. Well, can you go back through and find, if you don't mind, while you're doing 9,000 other things? Can you turn down Doc just a teeny bit? Just a teeny bit.
Sorry. I'm probably raising my voice out of the Hovind thing. In the presence of evil.
I kind of do feel a little bit dirty because I consider myself ethical, but I have been a teacher in the past. So it's like you rewind a little bit. $2 Andrew Crow, Andrew Crawl. Thank you for the super chat, Andrew. I really appreciate that for the $2 super chat. So shout out to you. I don't know why it's not working, because normally when a super chat happens, it happens, and we have like a little like I think Alan Turing fights Einstein or Stephen Hawking.
Streamlabs has been acted up today. It was acted up with a geek earlier too.
Okay.
It's the Masons. Definitely the Masons.
So Hogan took my call, guys, a second time, and he remembered me. I feel a little special, kinda, and I feel kind of dirty too. So I don't know. It's
Mel, what are the odds he's whipping a Skippy right now?
I don't know if he has a picture of me, if he even knows who I am.
Oh, bring the cringe.
Is this Mel, Scientist Mel, on the Twitter? We post selfies sometimes, and I get messages from my selfies guys. They're like, "I like your selfies," and they're not even suggestive. They're just literally pictures of me in my car or here, and they're like, "Wow, you're really cute." I'm like, okay.
But do you think? Oh, you got a super chat that came up.
Yeah.
Math Pig.
Who? Math Pig. Thank you, Math Pig. I don't know what your super chat says.
I can read it out.
Fantastic.
Want me to read it out?
Sure.
It says, well, it's all spelled all crazy, but it says, "What a super chat. I'm here for the redhead science." $2 from Math Pig.
Math Pig.
Thank you, Math Pig.
Thank you, Math Pig. Oh my goodness.
Give us more money and we'll dance for pennies. We don't give a shit.
I think those are pounds, actually.
Yeah, gold British
pounds,
pounds.
yeah.
So that's probably around $3 then, because I have the conversion pretty well set in my head all the times I've been to London. It's usually like times 1.5, and now it's like 1.2, something like that. Thank you, Brexit.
Oh my God.
Oh, that was the first thing my friend said to me when I landed the day the Brexit vote came out, and they started messaging me like, "Oh my God, we're leaving the EU." The day the vote came out, and I'm standing in immigration, and I'm like, I'm scared.
Wasn't that like 20 years ago though? They've been leaving for like the past. Well, I'm exaggerating with 20 years, but they're not leaving the EU no time soon. It's it's too messed up. There's no way.
Never underestimate the power of xenophobia. The Brits are really, really good at it. Like, nope,
Nate,
we're an island. Fuck off.
Can you read the next super chat? Thank you, because I can't.
Hold on. I just had to. All right, next super chat. Pennies for Doc Dance. Pennies to see Doc dance. $2 from Doorknob Head. So $2 for you to dance, Doc. What's going on? You put a challenge out there. Now they want to see a dance.
You had it. $2 worth right there.
Gosh. Okay. We're getting close to the end of the show. You guys have a challenge from Roswell. Do you want to do the challenge, or do you want to do stupid things on the internet? I'll give you guys a choice.
Well, time warning. It's 14 minutes until I need to go into recharge mode. So it's up to you.
Which
I
one
like
do you
stupid
want?
things on the internet.
Let's do the audacity, Bull.
You got the audacity. You're going to jail. You got the audacity. My name is Genie. You got the audacity. That's all I got to say. You got the audacity. I stole $3,000. You got the audacity. Audacity. You got the audacity. Because you don't got no evidence. My name is Genie. My name is Genie.
Yeah.
All right.
The stupid things on the internet G-Man Awards.
Yeah. So today I have pulled up. There's lots of what I call man babies that talk about me behind my back, and they say things. So this particular one was a definition on rape apologist. And this particular person said, unfortunately, ScientistMel doesn't agree, which is frustrating. Given someone who has that many degrees should be smart enough to know the definition. So this is basically mean tweets. We're reading mean tweets today.
Oh my God.
So I'm not smart enough to know a definition of an apologist argument, guys. I'm just letting you know. A man on the internet said that about me. So it must be true.
Well, that's nice. Yeah, I don't really think that applies to you. So, did the guy have a point, or is it just like flapping his gums?
I think it's just flapping his gums. I customarily, what I find, men who talk about me rather to me are often afraid of me. So let's have a look at what this individual had to say after that. Hey, Nate Brody.
It's Indiana Jones.
That worked. I think there's a 2-point. I mean, the second message. I think there's another one, but we can read this one. That's fine. This person is okay. Here we go. Yes, thank you.
You had a funky name file there, so you had a 2 sub 1.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. I've tried to point that out, but all I get from Mel and her gang is how stats on some website shows chance being low of someone being falsely accused. Should not matter how low it is. It happens, period. Isn't that what statistics are? It still says that it happens. I mean, am I missing something?
Don't know. Sounds like
I don't.
Sounds like flaccid incel belly aching. Really, would that be accurate?
Yeah, probably. Let's look at the next little grievance they had with that. Oh, Mel. She honestly couldn't go previous one, Bull. Let's go to the previous one so we can see. Oh, Mel, she honestly couldn't be more biased. She thinks she's doing science, yet cites statistics nonstop from Rain, who does research, by the way, but whatever. That's like me being racist and only getting race statistics from the KKK, all skewed and dishonest at best, but she doesn't want to hear it because we know the KKK does lots of research in racism, right?
Oh my God.
I've recently discovered that I am actually a racist. I'm not proud of it, but I'm really racist against Nazis. If Nazism's a race, I'm really racist against those fucks.
Oh my goodness.
I'm not, like I say, I'm not proud of it. I'm working on it. I'm trying to mellow a little bit, but Nazis, don't like them. Don't like anything about them.
So I've been dealing with man babies all week about this, and somebody had said at one point the same, totally Mr. Serious. He's deadly serious, guys. You stopped engaging with me because I kept asking you for help, clarifying a single question about your source, which you never helped me with. It's okay if you don't know, just say so. Acting so cold to someone who never had any ill intent is not a great way to be. But yet, he's gonna hop over to others. Like, Scientist Mel! Roar! I'm like, why would I help you? Like,
Take your tragic attempt at emotional manipulation and shove it up your ass. How about that?
you know,
Twitter is where people want to go to try to be relevant, and I think it's interesting because it's that, you know, they get to hide behind the keyboard warrior. You know, they get to say stuff and hide behind it. If you say something bad about them, then it's like, oh my God, you're such an evil person. So it just is what it is.
it's funny.
I tend to be quite upfront about being an evil person. You know, lower the bar.
I actually have a new response that I've generated just today for the individuals who are haters and trolls. I compiled this video. Bull, it's in Stupid Things. It's the video there. Let's have a look.
Oh, I gotta play this.
I got this. I got this. This is a yeah.
I love the haters though.
I do.
You gotta love
They're
the haters
funny.
now.
So check this out. This is mean tweets, mean comments, and mean posts. A dramatic reenactment. Turn it up. Well, I can't hear it. Redo.
My star is on the ascendant. That's why I don't care. I don't care. I don't care what they may think of me. I'm happy go lucky. They say that I'm plucky, contented, and carefree. I don't care. I don't care if I do get a mean and stony stare.
That is fantastic. I'm going to steal that one. I got somebody who I was arguing with on Twitter this morning. I'm going to use that for. So it's hilarious. I don't care.
Yeah, and your comments have been noted and put in the bin file, guys. And drop
my God.
right in the trash. That's where they go. Consider the source of your criticisms. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but to all the haters out there, you know, the people who it's, hey, you know, keep watching, keep supporting, because, you know, if you hate, fine. I don't care. It's funny because I remember I used to talk about G-Man with this. G-Man, I like you got 12,000 haters. They're called subscribers to you because I know 12,000 people probably hate your guts. So, and it's sad because some people, this is like their whole life. Their whole life is getting on Twitter to find people to troll. So this is it, you know. Let them get their life's worth out of it.
Yeah, I really don't hate G-Man. I've kind of worked through that. I see him like a subject of pity and someone that I never want to be anywhere near, because he has this kind of toxicity that I don't know. I get the impression that he's a shit magnet, and I don't want to get anywhere near him. Just dangerous, volatile liability. But, you know, I wish him nothing but the best. And I hope he manages to get through the next few years without being hit by any more cars. He's only been hit by 3.
Yeah.
Come on.
Listen, there's three things I know now from being on the internet. Number one, don't have a conversation with G-Man because it's never going to go well. Number two, don't trust Kyle when he says, I gotcha. Don't worry about it. Let me hold the money. If Kyle says, let me hold the money, you got a problem. Nope. And number three, remember with Steve, you let me hold all the money and I'll pay you back in 2 years. Those are the 3 things that you definitely know on the internet.
We have just enough time to do the Roswell challenge if you guys can power through it and just say yes if you believe it's a conspiracy or not. Can you get through it? We got just enough time for that, and then we will sign off. Is that cool with you, Doc?
Excelente.
Okay.
Bring it on.
All right. Let's do this.
My name is Roswell, and I'm here to issue you a challenge. Well, hello there, Nate. How are you today? Fantastic.
I am good.
Also, good to see you again, Doc. I haven't abducted you. I noticed you left me a bit of whiskey. I really appreciate that. Next time, perhaps we should up it a bit with a little bit of, I don't know, Oban. That would be nice.
scary disembodied alien face head thing.
Anywho,
It could be
let's
described
get on
as-
with the challenge. Here it is. I'm going to give you a list of conspiracies, and you have to let me know if it's a real conspiracy or not. So,
Oh, this
be
is good.
certain to play along in the side chat. Mel will give you points, and you could get a swag bag in December if you have the most points. Mel's Minions points, you can check them by doing your Streamlab commands. Are you ready?
Oh yeah, bring it.
Here
This
is
is
your
the
first
highlight of my week.
conspiracy. The royal family in the UK, along with Bushes and Clintons and many other rich, prestigious families, are actually man-eating, shape-shifting lizard people from the fourth dimension. Do you think people actually believe this? What is your take? Is it real or not?
That's true. That is a true statement. The reason why I know is because I am one of those aliens.
I was just about to say, Nate. We meet at the baby barbecue every year. This is a conspiracy theory, and it's also 100% true. I am also a shape-shifting alien from the fourth dimension.
But I think people believe this. Yes. I would say yes. Yes. This is going to be good. I'm saying yes, Mel. I'm saying this is a true conspiracy.
Okay.
Hell yeah.
What's the reveal, Bull?
This
The
is a
alien
real
heads.
conspiracy around about David Icke. All right? He is a human singularity of insanity, kind of known for this reptoid conspiracy theory. So he seems to think that these rich people do indeed form these lizard shapes that eat people. So yes, this is a real conspiracy. I've never met these lizard people, but whatever.
I'm right
Yes,
here.
you have. We're right here. Yep. Hiding in plain sight.
Next conspiracy.
Here's your next conspiracy. If you're familiar with the Federal Reserve and any kind of American economics, this conspiracy says that the Federal Reserve deliberately causes inflation and recessions. Just, to keep it interesting. People think that the Federal Reserve actually do this. They're in charge of the money, so why wouldn't they hurt people on purpose for that reason? Is this real?
This one is tough. The other one was easy. It sounded a little crazier, but this one is tough. I would say, shoot, I don't know.
I think yes, because it's actually true.
Yeah, because it sounds like there's some truth to this. Because for instance, if the economy is, they call it, if the economy is too hot, if you're making too much money, they intentionally raise interest rates to cool it off and to cause a recession. So it's true, but is it a conspiracy? I don't know. I'm gonna go with Doc though. Doc is on the show. Doc knows what's up. True.
It's true, but they get the cause and effect round the wrong way a little bit, I think. But when does that ever get in the way of a good conspiracy?
That's true. That's true. All right, we're going with true. Bull, what's it up?
This is a real conspiracy. People actually believe that the Federal Reserve is in charge of hurting people through economics. Well, they do have some control over inflation, given that they try to keep it between 2 to 3% for, to prevent economic crises. But,
Interest
do you
rates.
think this?
Yeah, quantitative easing, printing money.
Yeah.
Just here's some fucking money because who cares?
It's funny. Someone
Smurfing money because who cares?
Yeah. No, I'm reading this.
Forget about the gold standard. Yeah, we don't care about that anymore.
Brenda Von Onsen, I don't pronounce that. Onsen says it's not a conspiracy, it's how economics work.
Pretty much.
Next one. I think this is the
Oh, we
last.
did
Here's the
well.
next conspiracy. In 2014, the Ebola epidemic was deliberately caused by environmentalists to get rid of humans who might be in charge of, I don't know, farming the land there, mowing down sections of the area in order to raise crops. Is this a real conspiracy? Do you think people believe this?
Well, they're wrong because I caused the Ebola outbreak and autism. That was me.
Oh, you're 2 for 2 then.
Yeah, man.
This one is hard because the thing is that you know what? See now the law of averages comes in because see Mel has given us 2 that are true, so I'm thinking she's going to throw in a false one just because you got to have one false one. If they're all true, then Mel, but it just sounds too good. Mel, I gotta go with my feeling. My feelings say this is a true conspiracy. What do you think, Doc?
Yeah, to be fair, Iron Raw, all of the products were true for Iron Raws.
That's right. I'm thinking this. I'm thinking this is bogus because it's not bizarre enough. If they threw in, and it was created by the CIA to kill Castro, I would be all over it. But no, I think this is bogus.
This is not a real conspiracy. However, there is a conspiracy associated with the 2014 Ebola epidemic that it was all started by Big Pharma. Because, you know, so many conspiracies around Big Pharma. They're keeping us sick on purpose. Look at you, Doc. Shame on you for being part of, you know, healing people. God, that's got to get so old for you.
Yeah, it really does. But I do have to. I have to fly to a different continent in a couple of weeks to actually meet with Big Pharma. We all work for him. We worship at his feet. Big Pharma sits there like Jabba the Hutt, and all of the scientists come in, go, Big Pharma, tell us your bidding. What is thy bidding,
I guess
my master?
In a few weeks, I'll be visiting you, though, Doc. So I guess I'll be at your flat by myself.
Yeah, yeah. Big Pharma calls. Everyone has to go. That's the dealio.
I want to mention something that I just found out a couple of days ago. That's crazy. I have a friend who's a physician, and they have a YouTube channel, and they're trying to do like medical stuff. You know, like you should use this when this happens to the doctor. So you know how YouTube pays you between $2 to $4 per 1,000 views. Their videos are getting $50 to $100 per 1,000 views because Big Pharma on all their stuff. Big Pharma is putting on like these drug commercials on their stuff, so they're getting like huge rates. So off of just something like, wow, I need to change my channel to a fucking med channel so they can put their stuff on mine.
God.
50
I could do that. It's just like, yeah, man, take my advice. Don't slam your balls in the fridge door. Now watch these adverts.
If you guys think this is BS, on my channel, because like my law school videos, some of the CPMs, the cost per 1,000 views, usually it's $2 to $4. On the ones for law school, where the law school professors have to sell their books, it's $58 per 1,000 views on that one. So yeah, so it's a racket right now. It's crazy.
Hey, I might jump on that gravy train. I don't know.
Awesome. I think I think that's the last challenge. I don't know. What does Roswell have to say next, Bull?
Here's your last conspiracy.
Oh, okay, last one. Sorry.
Was killed by evil forces of big physics and big energy to prevent him from completing cold fusion. So cold fusion would save the world from everything and all the bad things. So, is this a real conspiracy? Was he killed by science?
Sure.
Ooh.
Yeah. And they knocked off Tesla as well.
Yeah, I think this is a real conspiracy. Have you guys ever seen the 60 Minutes? Because I'm thinking about that now. The 60 Minutes piece on cold fusion.
Yeah.
So now I'm thinking, yeah, it's a really good 60 Minutes and a whole piece on cold fusion.
All right.
I'm going to say
what's the revealable?
This is true.
This is a true conspiracy. There are people who actually believe Eugene Malov was killed by big physics and big energy in order to stop him from perfecting cold fusion. You know, he wasn't actually working on any device like that. He just was promoting the idea. But people believe this is actually a thing that happened. Science didn't do this, guys.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah,
All right.
big physics also killed him for trying to perfect the perpetual motion machine. We fucked him over for that one.
Of
Oh my
course.
God.
And
I
time
think
travel.
Roswell has the message.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
You
Yeah,
both
I was
did
just gonna say-
exceptionally well. I'm very proud of you. Nate, I don't think I've paid you a visit yet to give you your probing. It is part of science, you know. It is really important that I collect this data as soon as possible. With the rate that you guys are killing your planet, I've got to get a move on. But leave me a bit of whiskey and, I'll pass over your house. How about that? Have a great time. See you guys later. Bye.
Hey, if you want to pass by the strip club, you can get all the samples you want. I'll be there on Thursday. So.
Yeah, Nate.
Oh, goodness.
Nate, I'm really sorry, but by probing, she means your ass. Just to be very clear about that.
Oh, hey, I'll try
Roswell
anything
is-
once.
Yeah. I guess we need to wrap it up here because Doc has to sign off. It's 7 hours ahead, so he's such a trooper for hanging with us as long as this. Nate, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you and we'll sign off.
Hey, Nate Brody, Brody. I'll say hi in the chat. But hey, listen, that's where you can find me. It was great being on the show. You guys are incredible, and please, I can't wait to hopefully be back one time because this was amazing, guys. Really, really. And I'm a fan. I watch the show. You'll see me in the chat from here and there sometimes on when they do it on Sundays because I go to the geek room first, then I come here. So please support this show because this is phenomenal stuff, man. This is great entertainment. And don't forget, like, share, subscribe because this is the way that we got to support each other. So.
Absolutely. And you can find a link to Nate's channel in the description. Click on that and go hop over and subscribe. Any final thoughts, Doc?
As ever, it's been a delight. And Nate, it's been a real pleasure interacting with you. I'm beginning to shut down now, so I'm going to sign off real fast. But everyone give Mel all of your go to doing and, well, try not to listen to charlatans because mostly they're douchebags.
And thank you all for being here. And I guess we'll sign off and we'll see you next time, Sunday nights, 3 p.m. Central. You have the oral audacity. Bye. I absolutely adore Doc.
Because I have testicles for some reason.